The cannonball launch. It is a very special guest, YouTuber, actor and American boxer Jake Paul, fresh from his points victory recently against Mike Tyson.
Italy, are you ready? Come on. Brazil, Colombia, Kings League World Cup Final! Ready? Let the games begin!
How's your touch, Kelvin Oliveira? We are up and running then at Allianz Stadium. And immediately, Simon, the players have something new to deal with. We've been playing indoor at the Kings League Arena in Milan. Now they're out on a grass pitch in Turin.
Yeah, it's not an Astro anymore. It's also in front of more or less 40,000 people at the Allianz Stadium. The ball usually drops in the middle and has to go backwards. Here it fell straight to Kelvin Oliveira, who's going to have the first possession of the game, Patrick.
He is, and Kelvin is through here. But there's Camilo Mena. That's what he's been doing all tournament, and Colombia need him tonight.
He did it against Morocco, Camilo Mena, and it's good for him that he gets perhaps inside the head of Kelvin Oliveira early on in this game, because Colombia are going to need Mena to do that time and time again.
He made himself big there, did Mena, but Kelvin is so good in 1v1 situations, and he's backing himself for pace here. Was he fouled? The crowd certainly felt he was, but John Palacios running the other way. Opportunity for Colombia, and the ball got caught beneath his feet. Now, Brazil have an extra player on the pitch and a chance to open the scoring. Camilo Mena is there again, this time to deny Lee Pau.
Yeah, ball still in play, and it's number 8 here, Brian Gutierrez, who can take over for Colombia. Just calms things down immediately, but very, very clear the decision there to have Palacios on a defender to play alongside Kelvin in the opening exchange, Patrick.
Here is Brian Gutierrez, who's fit again. He missed an earlier match through injury. The angle there was against Palacios, and he drags it wide. But Colombia's matches have been pretty tight. They beat Morocco 4-1 in match day 1. They then defeated the Moroccans in the semi-finals 2-1 in what was a crazy game of Kings League. In between, they needed to come back from 2-0 down to win 3-2 against Turkey with a golden goal. The only match where they really let rip was that 6-1 victory over Uzbekistan in the quarterfinals, in stark contrast to the Brazilians, who scored 7 against Korea, 9 against Germany, 12 against Turkey. And there's Kelvin, and this time Camilo Mena needed 2 bites at it.
Andreas Vaz and Angelo Caro are the newest arrivals to the pitch here. But Mena, 3 shots faced, 3 saves already. Sloppy little mistake that, though, from Colombia.
The ball just going out of play there as Ancelot took his eye off it. It is slightly disorienting here because the dimensions of the pitch are demarcated with the usual white paint, but it is a 7v7 pitch on what is an 11-a-side football stadium. But again, Brazil turning to Kelvin Oliveira. 14 goals in this competition. They've counted for 18. Here go Brazil looking to open the scoring, and it's lifted over the top by Andreas Vaz. Still no score, as we now have 5v5. Denilson's on.
But you have to say that Colombia navigating this part of the game really, really well, because we saw Brazil against Turkey just pull away so quickly in the match that they put Turkey out of sight very early in the game. They weren't able to do it against Mexico, and Colombia resisting well. That's what Colombia will want until they can get 7v7.
Yeah, Colombia easing their way into this final. Here's Angelo Caro, the man who wears the armband, trying to cut inside. Kelvin was caught, free kick. And a quick recap of the rules. If a foul is so egregious as to warrant a yellow card, then we will have a 2-minute suspension, essentially the equivalent of a sin bin from other sports. And if there is a red card, then that's a 5-minute sin bin, and that player can play no further part in the match. But the secret cards that we drew before the match are exactly that, secret. They can't be revealed until the second half, which is when they can be played. The final 2 minutes of this 20-minute first half will see a Red Bull branded dice rolled by a celebrity, I won't reveal who, and that will also tell us how many players will be on the pitch. It's a staggered start and indeed reduced numbers at the end of the first half. A quick word there from Salva Lozano asking for silence. Let's hear the referees debate this.
In progress.
It's very high on Kelvin Oliveira there. That's why the Brazilians were angry. We don't want this final to be marred by a red card, but that was dangerous. The studs were showing, it's up on the ankle. I think it's going to be a yellow card at the very least.
And what's quite funny, Patrick, is that unlike in Serie A games, which are usually played here, the crowd can see the pictures on the screen, so there's an immediate reaction from the crowd here as to what we're seeing. You can see it's high on the shin.
But no further action has been taken, so Salva Lozano perhaps factoring in that the Brazilian player wasn't injured and that it is an emotional occasion for both sides, a final in front of a big crowd. As we are now about to see 6v6, 4 minutes have gone by. The shot from distance is blocked by Danielson. He's made plenty such challenges this week. We started on the first day of the new year, 1st of January 2025, on the south side of Milan, and here on the 12th of the first month, we are in Turin, Allianz Stadium, but Brazil still looking to find their way through. It reminds me a little bit of that game against Korea when it took them until the 26th minute to get their first goal. They can be patient as well when required. Here's Lipao.
It took them a while to get going against Mexico as well. They didn't score early against Mexico, with Obed Martinez also hitting the post early on in the match. Kelvin Oliveira hit the post, but we can see Danielson, Lobon on the back of his journey, joined in defence by Moreno Palacios, and those two have been absolutely unplayable at times in terms of getting past them. That'll be one of the combinations for Brazil to get right.
It will indeed, and now 5 minutes have gone by. This is how the bulk of the match will be played, 7v7. And Brazil doing most of the attacking, albeit so far they've come up against a brick wall. Loose ball there from Wembley meantime. We've recapped the rules. There's one final thing we need to say, which is the presidential penalty, a big part of Kings League. Colombia will have their president, Pelicanguer, who's going to take one. We've seen Brazil occasionally feel under the weather. So whereas they started with their first three presidents, they've got a presidential trio of Ustejario, the intern, of Gaules and Chris Geddes as well. But the hunch is that they might be turning to a shootout this evening, Simon.
That is the hunch, and I tell you what, it's disappointing.
Give it away here. This is Angelo Caro. What a chance for Colombia! And he tried to square it to Alexander Rodriguez. Now Colombia are two men light defensively. Wembley. That's a clever dummy. But no way through for Davy. And what a chance there for the Colombians.
Surprised Angelo Caro didn't go for goal, because he showed against Morocco that he has the composure and the quality on that right foot of his. Brazil still testing.
That's Wembley's effort after he was found by Shock, but over the top it goes, and you can see that Gaules, who spent all week in that lovely warm indoor arena in Milan, is now really feeling the chill. He's using his Brazilian flag actually to stay warm. But it looks like this final is going to be tense, and you said right from day one when you first saw these two teams in action that you felt these would be the two teams that would make it as far as the final. We needed a quarter-final draw to make sure they were on opposite sides of the bracket, and we have been treated to the best two teams in Kings League playing one another in this showpiece final.
Absolutely. Shows just how insightful I am. But just to come back to the president penalty, the Brazilian presidents have actually scored all three they've taken, so I'm surprised that they're not stepping up to take it, and good on Pelicanguer to take it himself.
And I believe in the semi-final you were there to witness it with our colleague Thomas Lawrence, who we salute today for his fine work in the lead-up to this final, that they delegated the shootout, saw Kelvin actually dribble around the goalkeeper, he was fouled, and then he scored the resulting penalty.
He did indeed. This is Brazil as we know them with the flair.
That's a fine challenge. Went to ground inside the box, played the ball. Here's Rodriguez. But again, no way through, no way out for Colombia. That pitch is tighter than it looks.
And this is what I was saying to you just moments before, as we can see the tackle from the Brazilians who had to get it right. That's Palacios' tackle a little bit earlier on as well. but Lobon and Palacios at the back for Colombia have been superb. Let's not forget, they dealt with the threat of Nadia Lua, who is the current Corona de Oro, the best player in Kings League.
And he might well be succeeded by Kelvin Oliveira, wearing the captain's armband, wearing 9. 14 goals that counted for 18, because 2 of those came in double goal periods, plus another one when he was wearing the green armband, which is a pretty good secret card to pull if you've got him in your side. Here's Davi. Very tricky, the right winger, but he lost the ball and it will be kept in play as well. Rare opportunity for Angelo Caro. They've won a corner there.
Kelvin Oliveira, usually after the first 5 minutes, does take a little bit of a breather, which is why he's gone off. It was also a pretty big challenge on him as well. So it's just watching from the sidelines there, but you feel like he's itching to come back onto the pitch, and you feel that this is a chance now for Colombia, Patrick.
Provided the delivery is right from Alexander Rodriguez. Zonal marking from the Brazilians so far. He takes his time. In it comes from Alexander Rodriguez. It went all the way through, and a curious decision there from Shoko just to leave the ball to go into touch. He was clearly confident there was no one behind him. And thank you to, of course, our institutional partners, Regione Piemonte, Città di Torino, with the support as well of Torino Metropoli and Iren Plus, the Fondazione per la Cultura Torino. So all of those, the wider Piedmont region, the city of Turin, the metropolitan area, and Iren as well. As Kelvin Oliveira is back on, and he went for goal, but he was off balance when he tried to meet it.
But this is exactly what we were saying. Lobon, Palacios and Angelo Caro keeping it very, very tight against Kelvin Oliveira. The Colombians probably gambling on the fact that if they can keep Kelvin Oliveira quiet, they may be keeping Brazil quiet overall, and it's a tactic that so far seems to be working.
That was the long throw from Denilson Lobon. Here's a chance for Shoko potentially. Kelvin went down, and now Alexander Rodriguez mischievously shouting something in Kelvin's ear, claiming that the Brazilian skipper dived after that challenge from Denilson Lobon. And with the name Denilson, he sounds almost more Brazilian than Colombian. Given away by Andreas Vaz. Colombia arguably on top at this stage.
Colombia, but they need to settle a little bit in possession. They're giving the ball away cheaply. And hopefully there's no serious injury for Lobon here. We can see that Alejandro Ortega is also on the pitch wearing number 11 for Colombia. He's the danger man in attack. They need to try and work the ball towards him.
They do indeed, because he is Colombia's top scorer so far in this competition with 4 goals, Ortega. In fact, they haven't had many goals at all, but Ortega scored once in their 4-1 win over Morocco in match day 1. He scored twice, including the golden goal in that come-from-behind 3-2 win over Turkey. And he also marked the 6-1 quarter-final victory over Uzbekistan with a goal. Ortega wearing 11 is certainly a potent player in the Colombian ranks. That's a penalty, is it on Shoko? A wag of the finger from the referee. And Brazil are convinced they should have a penalty, certainly. Gaules et al. Believe that's a miscarriage of justice. Did he just slip?
No massive complaints, though, from Choku, you have to say, which is always a good indication that the foul was either 50-50 or something not particularly clear, but Colombia need to be careful.
Denilson took a chance there. Here's Ortega with the nutmeg, but Andreas Vaz coming back to help out his colleague Rufino. Nearly a dozen minutes gone, a goalless scoreline. Just in case you weren't aware of how high the stakes are, you only need to look at the match situation. Neither side committing too many bodies forward. It's a world away from what we saw. But here's Kelvin Oliveira with the cross, and he wins a corner.
Once again, though, it's Lobon who blocks him, and we just saw a little bit there from Alejandro Ortega, who wears Maro on the back of his jersey, what he's capable of, even in tight spaces.
Kelvin's corner, it drops on the volley, a big swing and a miss there from Rufino. And the last touch was off for Wembley, wearing 3. And now the Colombians want to make a change. They want to get Julio Perea on the pitch.
Julio Perea, who scored the first goal against Morocco in the semi-final. This guy has lightning quick pace, Patrick. We've spoken about Lilletti and Lipao for the Brazilians, who bring that raw speed. If Perea gets in behind the Brazilians, he is not going to be caught.
So one for Brazil to keep an eye on, but Colombia have given the ball away. Another nutmeg, this time it's again collected, but now Kelvin on the edge of the box into Shoku, again lost his footing. This is something new for the players to deal with. They have to change their footwear, gone from wearing Moldies, I'm sure, or AstroTurf shoes to now having to wear studs. But Kelvin for Shoku, that was off the chest there. Excellent defending once again, brave from Luis Moreno.
Luis Moreno and Lobon will be there all day long. They're going to be nitty, they're going to be gritty. Put his body on the line. These guys are going to be excellent. It is true, I think you're quite right to point out that you're playing on grass, you're playing in the cold. We know that for the Brazilians in particular, it's not something that they enjoy doing necessarily. These are difficult conditions that you have to adapt to very quickly, and that's why perhaps we're seeing a lot of the players slip at the start of the game.
Yeah, especially as so many of those Brazilian players have come from a futsal background, 5v5 indoor with a low bounce ball. Not so this time around. Kelvin takes it short. Shooting chance on the edge of the box. Well stifled in the end. And again, Brazil have to chase back in numbers, doubling up there. That was a bit of a lunge. You could see what he was trying to win the ball, but in the end it was clearly a foul from Brian Gutierrez.
What I will say, Patrick, is that the referees since the start of the competition have also been very consistent. The 50-50 contacts, if the foul is not really a clear-cut foul, they don't give it. It's been the same with yellow cards. It has to be serious infringements usually for the free kicks to be given. Like that, what we've just seen now.
Two challenges going in, neither one was a free kick, and Colombia win the corner on the counter there with the pace of Pereira in particular, and now they're asking as to whether there should be a card for a foul potentially off the ball.
This is a proper South American duel, isn't it? This isn't the challenge. I was more interested in a challenge as to what the Colombians were appealing for, but there was the speed of Julio Pereira, I should say. He reached the ball first, and he will be the favourite to reach it every time in behind that Brazilian defence.
Still goalless after 14 minutes. We are under 4 minutes away now from the first real milestone in this final. Namely, we will throw the Red Bull dice, and we will therefore decide how many players will be on the pitch for the final 2 minutes of the first half, plus added time. There is still scope for these two teams to play their presidential penalty. You can choose to do that at any time during the game, unlike the secret card, which can only be played during the second half of matches. Here, it is a case of the presidential penalty is as and when you can do so. But already, Simon, some incredible numbers. 2.5 million devices tuned in. We went above the 3 million threshold for the semi-finals.
And previously to the Kings World Cup Nations, the top best number was 2.2.
That was a driven corner. Interesting approach there. It nearly came off as well. But defence is on top so far, and Colombia are showing the grit and determination which has got them thus far. Not to be disparaging, not to take away from any of their technical ability, but if you're able to keep Brazil quiet, you're doing something right. 31 goals across 4 matches, but so far no way through against Los Cafeteros.
And also one little bit of housekeeping as well. It is rolling substitutes, but you can only make the substitution in and out in those two centre lines that you can see going through the centre circle, and you have to be holding a bib.
Here's Kelvin, plays it wide. It's going to be a corner. Again, a player losing his footing. On this occasion, Rufino. And an opportunity perhaps now for Brazil. They take it short to get Kelvin on the ball. Back for Rufino again on the edge of the box. This is Wellington finding Wembley. Wellington might be tempted by the shot. He does try his luck, and he lifts it over the top.
It's going to take something very, very special to beat Camilo Mena from there. But we're approaching the 18th minute mark and the roll of the dice, and that's the period where Brazil started to unlock things against Mexico. The Brazilians, from a tactical point of view, will want low numbers on the pitch, 1v1, 2v2, 3v3 even. Colombia will want to have as many players as possible there to disrupt the Brazilian attacks. We're not there quite yet, but certainly that's where we're heading goalless at the moment.
That was good defending from Wembley, just leaning into Jair Perez, the Colombian player that was in the most advanced position. But yes, we are just 2 minutes away from the roll of the Red Bull dice, which is going to be rolled by very familiar face to Italian viewers, albeit he's an Inter fan. Through it goes, and there's Camilo Mena again, because Wellington would have been 1v1 had the Colombian keeper not been on his toes. Pereira now feeding it through. Wembley with a questionable challenge, but again, he did enough on Jair Perez, and a high five between the players, a sign of good sportsmanship.
And again, a sign that referees aren't going to be giving those 50-50 challenges as free kicks. Now, we spoke a lot about Kelvin Oliveira. In every game he's played, he's been MVP, and rightly so, with those 14 goals, as we said. Camilo Mena has been MVP in 2 of Colombia's games, and you can also tell why early on with the saves, and also the way he's reading the game, Patrick.
Yes, and amazing to think that all of these Colombian players, as you mentioned in the pre-match show, Simon, are very used to playing in Kings League. Camilo Mena isn't, he's the only one not attached. But here's Wellington feeding it through, and here's a chance for Shoku. It's off the line from Danielson, and still they get it clear with Angelo Caro, who's kept it in play as well. Whatever they try, it just won't go in at the moment for Brazil.
Well, Angelo Caro has come with a box of tricks, hasn't he? This is Palacios, if I'm not mistaken, who clears it there. A reminder as well that you are only offside in Kings League football if you play ahead of the goal line there.
Brazil again testing. That shot is well blocked. It was the effort coming in from Lipao. But indeed, Palacios chasing back with those red boots of his, where Denilson Lobon was found wanting. Palacios picked up the slack.
Curious tactic as well from the Colombians, or perhaps the right one. They're making a lot of those substitutions, keeping the players on the pitch fresh to press, fresh to close down.
The countdown is on to the 18-minute mark, and it comes towards Shoku.
You have to have a shot. Have a shot. Once it reaches 0, it's over.
And it is over, so now it is the time for that big moment. We are going to see the energy time break, energized by Red Bull. And it is going to be, as I said, a famous face from the world of Italian television. There he is, Paolo Bonolis. He's an Inter fan, but he's on Juventus territory this evening to roll what I can tell you is a very heavy bit of kit, the Red Bull dice.
Hey, you took a picture with the dice a little bit earlier on this week, Patrick. It's a very good one. It's rolling down the steps here, and it lands on a 4.
Indeed, so that means 3v3 plus goalkeepers, 4 players all told for the final 2 minutes of the first half plus added time. And this, you would think, Simon, would favour the Brazilians slightly.
Very slightly, because I think Colombia will have the players on the pitch to contend with this. You can see it's Julio Pereira with that pace. Brian Gutierrez will have a little bit of technicality. Lobon, who will be the defender, of course, for Brazil. Andreas Faz, Lipao, and I think it's number 7.
Wembley too, I think, is it?
Davi Hilario, I think, number 7. I'm not sure, I can't see.
Lights on, lights out, away we go. Indeed it is, Davi. And so Brazil trying to get to the ball first. They've managed it as well. And immediately it's in possession with Lipao.
And that is the first time since the start of the tournament that Julio Pereira has been beaten to the ball.
There you have it. Kelvin Oliveira ready to come on. But in the meantime, Brazil are plotting a first goal of this final. And it is Davi onto that favoured left foot of his. Trying to work the 2v2. He needs to get a shot away. He does. It's comfortable for Camilo Mena. Once the referees put that hand up, it is a signal that the players need to take a shot. Otherwise, the ball will be turned over. You do need to show an intent to try and score a goal. But think of all these supporters that have packed into Allianz Stadium this evening, expecting to see goals. And so far, they're yet to see one. That's how high the stakes are in this Kings World Cup Nations final.
Angelo Caro has just come on as well. This is a tactic we've seen from Colombia time and time again, which is bringing on the players in an attacking situation and then making the quick changes when they have to defend.
Brian Gutierrez, back through by Angelo Caro. The ball is turned over now. They weren't really making too much of a conscious effort to try and score a goal there, Colombia, so it's turned over to Brazil. They still have Kelvin Oliveira waiting to come on. Now he does exactly that, and immediately he's in possession, as we have just 40 seconds plus added time remaining in this first half. Kelvin Oliveira! Oh! That's what he came to do! The tournament's top scorer delivers the first goal of the final, and it was a beauty!
Bows down to everyone, Kelvin Oliveira. One clear-sighted goal, and immediately gets Brazil in the lead.
Kelvin cutting inside and fizzing it past Camilo Mena. So far the Colombian keeper had been equal to every effort, but this time around He had no answer to Kelvin, and he's now on the cusp of scoring an equivalent of 20 goals for Brazil in this tournament. Here's Alejandro Ortega going down. No foul by Andreas Vaz. Can Brazil score a second? Andreas Vaz driving all the way through. He's now lost the ball, and Angelo Caro is beaten for pace.
Yeah, Lipao is so quick, even when you look to close things down defensively. But Oliveira's goal is just going to force Colombia to be a little bit more adventurous, and they need to be. They've been a little bit too content with defending so far, and now they're going to try and attack a bit more.
Camilo Mena came out and got the ball. He needed a piece of it as well, despite what Andreas Vaz is saying there. And it will be a Brazil throw. We have played nearly all of the minute of added time, but a very tight final. 1 goal so far. The throw has gone the way of Colombia, but they're going to need to shoot very quickly indeed as the time ticks down. 5 more seconds of added time or thereabouts. Angelo Caro pulling the strings, feeding it through. This is Julio Pereira, the angle's against him. It's a good save from Barata. Angelo Caro back in!
Oh!
A stunning equaliser from the Colombian captain. A better goal than Kelvin Oliveira's. He was off balance, he was going the wrong way, but he's lobbed the keeper, and it's 1 each with the final kick of the first half.
If this stands, this is surely the goal of the tournament. That is something absolutely sublime, and it comes out of nowhere.
What a stunning way to grab the equalising goal. Angelo Caro with a peach to beat Brazil, and there is nothing to choose between these two sides at the break. Brazil won, Colombia won, and 2 of the standout players have showed up tonight. Players already back out there for the second half. A reminder that the secret cards were drawn before the match by the 2 head coaches. They can be played almost at any time during the second half. They can't be played after the 38-minute mark, nor indeed can presidential penalties be called beyond the 38-minute mark. Ask the Colombians about that in particular. They fell foul of that ruling in their semi-final against Morocco. It nearly cost them, but the lights are ticking down, and very soon the cannon will launch the ball for the second half, which begins with the scoreline and level. Kelvin Oliveira with the opener for Brazil. Angelo Caro with arguably the goal of the tournament as the equaliser. And we resume here again with 7v7. And immediately it is going to be the Brazilian presidential penalty.
The Colombian
presidential penalty. I apologise.
And just to confirm that the cannon was launched by members of the female and male Juventus senior teams, Yildiz, McKennie and Co, who got the second half started there. But it will be a penalty now for Colombia, and a big chance to get the better of Josildo Barata in this game, Patrick.
Yeah, exactly. Yildiz, who scored in yesterday's Turin derby. Wes McKennie, who we saw earlier on as well this week in Milan. Plus Turncoat Maynard's a big money summer signing. Cristina Girelli and Martina Rosucci, who are both Italy internationals as well for Le Azzurre. But a big opportunity now, and it is going to be Colombia with Pelicanguer. It is their president. We saw James Rodriguez have one saved as a stand-in Preston for Colombia earlier on this week. Big pressure. Colombia to take the lead. Put away by Pelicanguer. And for the first time tonight, Los Cafeteros lead in Turin. They've come from behind and they're 2-1 up. Pelicanguer.
Nets in the quarterfinals, Nets in the semi-finals, and now Nets in the final. And you have no idea how crucial these president penalties are, because now it puts the pressure on the Seleção to respond. Now the Seleção and the Brazilians have decided not to use one of their presidents for a president penalty. It will be a shootout, which so far in the competition, when it has happened, has been Kelvin Oliveira.
It has indeed. Kelvin Oliveira, the leading goal scorer in this tournament. He's scored in every single match, and it's been an astonishing record of goals. Here's a chance for the equaliser for Brazil, and they got in one another's way there. Still a chance. Lipao smashes it over, but Kelvin with 2 in match day 1, 3 in match day 2, 6 in the quarterfinal, and a hat-trick in the semi-final. He has scored a total of 4 hat-tricks across the competition, and he's now also got that opening goal in this final. But as things stand, that goal counts for very little because Colombia have since scored 2 without reply.
And Colombia, as we saw in the first half, so difficult to beat, so difficult to score against. Camilo Mena has been MVP in 2 of Colombia's 4 games. It says it all from the keeper.
Here's Wembley. Brazil looking to equalise in open play as opposed to immediately turning to their presidential penalty, which would be a shootout. A reminder, 5 seconds to dribble from the centre circle. Lipao trying to open up a shooting angle. He says he was fouled. Again, the referee not interested. Wembley wins it high up the pitch. Shoku, the shot comes in from distance. Kelvin Oliveira, and it's an easy save for Camilo Mena.
A reminder as well that you can only play your president penalty or your secret card before the 38th minute mark, and often the secret cards do carry a time limit of 4 minutes.
Especially if it is something like a player suspension for 4 minutes or a double goal.
The star player, in contrast, is timeless until that player scores, which could be a beneficial one for Brazil.
Yes, with the green armband, Kelvin's already scored that way this week. Shoku with the flicked header. Another bit of easy handling for Camilo Mena, just buying a few seconds there before picking the ball up. But Colombia, against all odds, are in front. We said they'd be the underdogs, and that seems to be working out well for them so far. Then again, they've already had their presidential penalty. Brazil still have that in store, so it's almost like a game in hand, this situation, isn't it? Yes, Brazil can respond, but Colombia have goals on the board in this instance.
100%, and the pressure is on Kelvin Oliveira, and Kelvin Oliveira hasn't been at his sparkling best so far in the game, missing a couple of chances early on when it was 1v1 and 2v2 in the match.
Brazil have it again there. Wembley taking a tumble. This is Andreas Vaz wearing 10. It's his ball across, and it was a fingertip save, I think, from Camilo Mena. Brazil won the corner, and now the officials do make the decision. We'll never know whether that would have gone in, but it looked very close.
Definitely saved by Camilo Mena. He was appealing that he didn't touch it.
In comes the corner, headed clear there by Denilson Lobon, and Alexander Rodriguez tried to release Palacios there, unable to find him.
It's disappointing, though, from Colombia's point of view, because they should be doing better. And
a reminder then of Air Asia. Move your favourite travel companion across Southeast Asia. Explore flights, hotels and activities all in one app. Here come Colombia with Julio Pereira. And he just ran out of pitch in the end.
They pushed a little bit too far there, Julio Pereira. But still, he's one of the players alongside Alejandro Ortega that Colombia are going to want to get on the ball as much as possible.
Colombia now sitting deep, understandably so. They're very solid defensively. They have a lead. It's a slender advantage, though, after that successful presidential penalty from Pelican Guerre at the start of the second half. Brazil looking to equalise. The shot, though, from Leleti comes in, and it was easily blocked. And so far, Brazil might be reliant on making things happen in the final 2 minutes of play.
But this is exactly the analysis that we had ahead of the game, which was Colombia had more weapons to hurt Brazil going forward, but would be just as solid.
For Kelvin Oliveira! His second, Brazil's second, and the top scorer steps up again to make it 2 apiece in Turin.
Cometh the hour, cometh the man here, Kelvin Oliveira. And now it's advantage Brazil, because they also have that president penalty to come. Able to run in behind. Beautiful ball from Lipao.
A multiple scorer now in every single match in this competition. Kelvin Oliveira, MVP in 4 games from 4. Both of Brazil's goal in this final. And he is looking like he's going to again grab the headlines here at the Kings World Cup Nations. 2 each, and advantage Brazil now. And Kelvin said he came here to win the competition, to lift the prize, to bring it home to a Nação do Futebol, the footballing nation that is Brazil, and so far he's been true to his word.
Vaz goes down there under Julio Pereira's challenge. You do feel that that goal from Kelvin Pereira certainly gives the advantage to Brazil, but he's still going to have to score that penalty shootout. It's not done yet.
Kelvin's taking a breather in the meantime. Andres Vaz finding Lipao. It was his assist for Kelvin, that lovely diagonal run, and then the ability with one touch to go round the keeper and slot it into an unguarded net. This is why Brazil have been so potent throughout this competition. Kelvin Oliveira, it's now 16 goals for him. They've counted for 20, and he is a repeat offender too when it comes to scoring goals which are worth multiples, being in the last 2 minutes of play. But, Simon, as things stand, with the scoreline at 2 each, come the 38-minute mark, if it were still level, it wouldn't be goals being worth double. It would be a golden goal scenario, which has already smiled on Colombia. It's how they beat Turkey.
They're coming down from 2-0 in that game against Turkey.
Leleti on the far side with that surge of pace. He's done well here, Leleti! And there's Camilo Mena again. More heroics than the Colombian keeper.
Reacts so quickly as Logan Paul watches on there.
Yep. Jake Paul having fired the cannon earlier on. It's taken short here. Back it goes for Andres Vaz. Nice trickery from the 10. Was he clipped? He was. Colombia unhappy because they had a 3v1 situation, but there was a clear infringement.
Yeah, it did look like a foul, certainly from where we are. And the replay confirms that clear infringement from Lobon. Never understand why players complain, because everyone's seen it. But he's having a great game as well. Camilo Mena, once again, could be much worse for Colombia.
So too is the match official, Salva Lozano. We had Jorge Faustino keeping tabs on the streamers against Legends game, which we saw at half-time, which was that 3-2 scoreline in favour of the team wearing white.
Wellington on, and I think he fancies this right off the bat. He's got a cannon of a right foot, Wellington.
Yeah, big well. He's a particular favourite of Gaules, one of the Brazilian presidents. And it looks like he fancies himself to do what Del Piero used to do time and time again, albeit not much of this ground. It is going to be Wellington. It's saved by Camilo Mena, and I would have preferred to have seen him catch that. Corner conceded.
I agree. Surprised that Camilo Mena chose to palm it away instead of catching the ball.
Taken short by the Brazilians. Here's Wellington tossing it in, and he was ready to finish there, Lipao. It didn't quite reach him, but another Brazil corner, and these are difficult moments for the Colombians.
Yeah, important touch from Julio Perea, who tracked his marker all the way, did really well.
Andres Vaz! It did open up for him. Nice short corner taken, and from the edge of the box, you'd ordinarily back him to at least hit the target there.
You can see, though, that Brazil is so reliant on the creativity and the goal-scoring ability of Kelvin Oliveira, because as soon as he goes off the pitch, they don't carry that same threat. Colombia have to exploit those periods when Kelvin Oliveira isn't there to try and get their own goal. Took something quite brilliant from Caro in the first half to get the better of Barata.
Here's Brian Gutierrez, ran into trouble there. Brazil winning all the 50-50s at the moment. That was slightly hurriedly cleared by Davi. Wellington underneath it, well won though by that man again. He's had such a terrific game wearing for Luis Moreno.
There it is, the Brazilian president penalty called to take the lead before both teams play their secret cards.
So, can Brazil, via a shootout presumably with Kelvin Oliveira, take the lead again in this match? It would be a hat-trick for the player wearing 9. It's back with Wembley.
Hat-trick enough for Brazil and for Kelvin Oliveira to take them into the final and past Mexico.
3-1 winners against Obed Martinez et al. Mexico had looked very good as well throughout the tournament, but Brazil want to score from open play before that presidential penalty. Then they'd have a 2-goal cushion. They need to be careful, though, in possession here. Kelvin taking a chance under pressure from Ortega. Wembley. Here's Kelvin Oliveira again, dropping the shoulder, playing it wide. Leleti now. Through it goes. Was he onside? Good goalkeeping. Kelvin is there. And indeed the flag does go up. It wouldn't have counted had the ball crossed the line. And now it is time for the presidential penalty, but it won't be Chris Gates, it won't be Gaules, it won't be Ustejario. All three of those have taken presidential penalties. Instead, it is going to be a shootout. Well, they're actually playing rock, paper, scissors, so not sure whether they've necessarily had second thoughts there, but I think Kelvin is now talking with his teammates, and if they are true to their word, they did reveal that it would probably be a shootout because, Simon, they look a little bit under the weather. They're not feeling their best.
Yeah, they look a little bit ill. They're wrapped up nice and warm there, which is the least they can say. Gaules using the Brazilian flag, but it will be Kelvin Oliveira. He was fouled by Monterde in the game against Mexico. And he'll have a chance here.
A big chance for yet another hat-trick in this competition for the Kings World Cup Nations top scorer. The man who might well be crowned the next Corona de Oro. Kelvin Oliveira, of course he buries it. He drills it past Camilo Mena. 3 goals for Brazil tonight. All 3 have come from that man. The skipper has another hat-trick. He might be going home with the match ball, MVP, and of course, above all, the trophy itself.
Really well taken shootout. Waits until Camilo Mena makes the move and makes himself big and just has enough elevation on the shot to take it over the foot of the Colombian goalkeeper. It means that it is Brazil now who lead 3-2 with 10 minutes remaining, and both secret cards will be played very shortly, you imagine.
Was that a high boot? But astonishing how Kelvin is taken over for the Brazilians. All of their last 7 goals have been scored by the number 9.
That's why Colombia were being physical with him at the start of the game, trying to impress him with Lobon and Palacios Moreno.
Perea with the long throw. Colombia, they're trying to get the equaliser with Victor Nielsen, Lobon.
We saw that work, though, in other games. Tony Alvarado, other players who were able to get headers on goal. And Patrick, we have just reached a new all-time record of viewers here at Kings League. 3.12 million people watching us at the moment.
And numbers, I'm sure, which are set to rise. Thank you for all your support. It's been a privilege bringing you the first ever edition of the Kings World Cup Nations. We're setting records with every passing match, and it's fitting then that the showpiece final here at Allianz Stadium has set the record. Kelvin now playing provider. In it comes, dealt with though.
The Colombians play their Spotify secret card. Now, what is it going to be? Player suspension could be something good for them to get one of the Brazilians out of the mix. A penalty or a shootout would also allow them to draw level.
And surely, if it is going to be the player suspension, you have to take off Kelvin Oliveira, albeit there have been times this evening when he has gone off of his own accord to get a breather. He picks his moments, and we've already seen that in terms of his ability to find the net. Colombia looking for an equaliser. Julio Perea went down too easily. They're shaking ahead from Simon Harding alongside me in the commentary box here.
Yeah, I don't like that. And to be honest, if that's not a foul, then to me, that's simulation, and that should be a yellow card for diving. Even if this is Kings League, there's no space for it, and the decision is a suspension.
He called it, Simon Harding. Now, surely you have to get Kelvin Oliveira out of the action for 4 minutes. And indeed, it's just being communicated to him. He's disappointed because he wanted to play as much as possible in this final, but the official has just relayed the message to Kelvin that for 4 minutes he's now out of action.
A really nice back and forth there with El Pibe, the Colombian head coach. All smiles, of course, joking, but there was never ever a doubt of who was going off once that decision was taken. Now, not only do Brazil play without Kelvin Oliveira, they also play a man down for the next 4 minutes.
So a big boost that for Colombia. They need to try and now make the most of this 7v6 situation. They've got Andreas Vaz there waiting in the wings to try and come on. But here's Alejandro Ortega. The question is, if Colombia were to score, could Brazil actually find the net without Kelvin? In it comes towards Danielson. Playing for time here.
The referee's just said stop the time because these seconds are crucial in terms of that player suspension. You can imagine that Brazil, if they can, will try and waste as much time as possible during the next 4 minutes so that they don't have to play a man down in terms of the time of the game. I'm curious to know what secret card Brazil have, because they've had double goals and the star player on a few occasions. You feel Colombia maybe, Patrick, might need 2 in the next 3 minutes?
Yeah, absolutely, because when we get to the final 2 minutes of play, unless the scoreline is level, and at the moment Brazil have the edge, goals would count for double, which, when you're trailing, in theory, works well, because you know that if you can score in one fell swoop, you go from trailing to suddenly leading. However, when you're up against Brazil, with the likes of Kelvin Oliveira, by then his suspension will have elapsed. You are playing with fire, knowing that if you concede, any goal counts double. So Colombia will want to equalise. There's turncoat Mainers, Gerard Piqué, Kenan Yildiz and Wes McKennie, the Juventus stars there. And Gerard Piqué sporting that iconic Danone, or Danone as they say here in Italy, that Juventus shirt. What a beauty that is. I'd love to get my hands on one of those. But a reminder that if you need some motivation for the new year, go and check out our KWCN playlist made by your favourite players and streamers.
Do love a good playlist.
You do. I'm a little bit disappointed we didn't hear some of your tunes on the drive down from Milan to Turin a bit earlier on. Maybe we can have some of that. Get this party started, which we've heard all week at the Kings World Cup Nations. There's a couple of songs in particular that are stuck in my head, as are those tunes from Mahmoud as well. We enjoyed his performance pre-match.
Really good performance. Crowd reacting well to Mahmoud. San Remo, of course, for him.
That's clever skill from Alejandro Ortega, and when he relied on composure, he couldn't find it.
Do you think he should square that? Should he be putting that across? He absolutely mystifies his man, and it's a wild, wild swipe at the ball.
It's a shame because the drop of the shoulder was so smooth. He absolutely danced his way past the Brazilian defender, but when he required a cool head, Alejandro Ortega, who, by the way, scored a golden goal to beat the Turks, this time around he couldn't get the better of Barata, and it's still Brazil who have the edge. They lead by 3 goals to 2 because of a hat-trick from Kelvin Oliveira. Once again, he single-handedly grabbed all the goals for a Canarinha. But now Colombia looking to make something happen in the final third. Good defending as well from Brazil. Chefinho making the challenge.
Minute 40 on that player's suspension remaining. Barata once again goes to grounds.
And we already heard Ancelot Caro speaking in his native Spanish to Salva Lozano, and the referee said, Ancelot, let me deal with it. They feel that the goalkeeper is going down to try and waste time. The clock has been stopped, though, and now it's kicking off. Well, try and tell people that Kings League doesn't mean much. It means so much to these players, and it's all kicking off now. Andreas Vaz in particular, with Alexander Rodriguez, who's always got plenty to say for himself.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a... There's
and
a
both
little
players
bit of
booked.
A weight difference as well, but I tell you what, this smiles to Colombia because both players are receiving a 2-minute sin bin, which means that Brazil are now 4v5 outfield players. This could be big for Colombia in the next minute and a half. Andreas Vaz, he's also got plenty of character in him. We actually spoke to him after the semi-final against Mexico, and he said that he was determined. He'd put his body on the line if it came to it to get Brazil to win the World Cup.
Andreas Vaz then has responded to the provocation from Alexander Rodriguez. Both the Colombian player and the Brazilian have been given a 2-minute suspension, so they're out of the game for 2 minutes still. Brazil have to go 90 seconds without Kelvin, and as Simon correctly said, it's now 5 for Colombia against 4 outfield players for Brazil. So there should be an overload, which will be even more evident than it has been when it was 7v6.
And the drama is contributing to even more viewers for us, Patrick. 3.4 million and growing at the moment.
Come on, let's make sure we cross that 4 million threshold. We're not far away. Was that handball by Brazil? It wasn't. Excellent work from Lipao just buying some vital seconds here with Kelvin still off the pitch. Brazil can't wait to get their captain and leader back on the pitch, and above all, their goal scorer. 3 goals in this final, yet another hat-trick from him, the standout performer in this Kings World Cup Nations, but it doesn't mean he'll necessarily win the competition. Pushed away by Barata. Colombia come again. He's managed to keep the ball despite slipping. That's a clever cross as well. There was no one on the end of it. A good vision from Axur Quintero.
Brian Gutierrez as well was in the middle. He didn't gamble quick enough, maybe didn't expect the ball from his teammate, but you feel that Colombia running out of time now. 45 seconds on that player's suspension remaining. They will still have an extra man for about 30 seconds because of the suspension to Vaz and Alex Rodriguez a little bit earlier on. That's given away by Barata.
It is indeed, but Colombia can't make it count. Denilson Lebon goes down. That was an optimistic clearance there from Brazil. I think they were maybe going for goal. Denilson's gone down, but I'm sure his teammates will say to him, if you can play on, get up and play on, because the clock continues to tick down. And Simon, we're now 1 minute away from the 38-minute mark, and as things stand, unless Colombia score, goals would be worth double because it is not an even scoreline. Were it 3-3, then there would be a golden goal scenario.
And because of the time remaining, we know that Brazil either have a shootout or a penalty on their secret card because they still haven't played it, and they've got 30 seconds to play it, and there it is, Spotify secret card from Brazil, 100% penalty or the shootout.
And they have Kelvin Oliveira, who will be back on to take it, so presumably they're also waiting for his suspension to come to an end. Kelvin's back on. The effort, though, was a good one from Axur Quintero. It goes wide, and there is Gaules, Chris Geddes, and Ustejario. They're saying again their iconic celebration, "Da frio." It is going to be a penalty, and with this, Brazil could go 4-2 up, and it would also allow them to even concede in the final 2 minutes of play, and that would still lead to a 4-4 scoreline, which would take us to a shootout. 5 attempts per side, again dribbling from the midfield line, but Kelvin is going to have a chance to put them on the cusp of winning the Kings World Cup Nations here.
In many ways, it doesn't change much for Colombia, you have to say. They would have had to score regardless. Had the score been 3-2 and they score, yes, they win, but regardless, they needed to score. But Kelvin, with his stutter penalties, which I'm sure you'll take us through, Patrick, he's been unstoppable from the spot.
He has. It's one for people with very sturdy nerves of steel, Kelvin Oliveira, because he waits, he delays, he slows his run up, and he just waits for the goalkeeper to commit himself before putting it in. We have seen goalkeepers get hands to his penalties. They haven't yet, though, kept them out, and this is to get Brazil so close to the finish line. 2 of the best players in the tournament so far go head-to-head. It is Kelvin Oliveira. And they are so close now to getting it done. Again, the ice-cool celebration from the ice-cool Kelvin Oliveira.
Straight down the middle it goes from Kelvin Oliveira. Fires home, fires true. Has he fired Brazil towards the first ever World Cup Nations title in Kings League? Colombia have 2 minutes to get 1 goal, which is what they need to do, but everyone down there in the Colombian camp is looking like they're just about to boil over. They need to keep their cool. Morocco didn't keep their cool against Colombia in the final 2 minutes, had 2 players sent off with sin-bin yellow cards, and that cost them.
Goals are now worth double because the scoreline is not even. It's Brazil 4, Colombia 2. Colombia needed to score a goal in the final 2 minutes of play, plus added time, in order to win the game. Prior to that penalty, it would have given them a 4-3 scoreline. Now they've conceded the penalty from Kelvin. They need to score to equalise and send the game to a shootout. If Brazil score, it's pretty much done. And Kelvin Oliveira, just to come back to his numbers again, he's now scored 18 goals in this competition, which have been worth 22 as part of Brazil's 35 all told. But the final 2 minutes of what has been a breathless tournament, the Kings World Cup Nations. It began in Milan on the first day of 2025. It will come to a close here at Allianz Stadium in Turin, where Brazil are so close to the finish line. But as we know, Simon, in this game, anything can happen, especially in the final 2 minutes. And immediately, Alejandro Ortega is deflected. Barata wasn't getting there, it's just a corner.
What a start to these last 2 minutes. Kelvin Oliveira, who's 9 goals clear from the second place player in the top scorers list, who is Nadir Lua.
Now, Ortega waiting to take the corner. Can Colombia score? Back it goes for Alexander Rodriguez. It's his ball in, it's off target. He's just served his 2-minute suspension. And surely it is a changing of the guard moment as well. Nadir Lua, the current Corona de Oro, has only scored half of the goals that Kelvin Oliveira, surely the next Corona de Oro, has managed in this tournament. And Brazil want to kill it off here. Kelvin giving chase. And was that a back pass by Denilson Lobon? It wasn't. We play on. Colombia in possession.
Colombia have got to throw caution to the wind here. It doesn't matter if you lose by more than 1 goal. Go for it now. Angelot Caro lacked the power.
He shifted it nicely there. It was he who scored that wonderful equaliser with the final kick of the first half. He's so gifted, the Colombian number 10, but Barata had a good look at that. And that's fine for Leletti. He won't mind that at all.
Brazil will try and waste every single second. It's Lipao.
Lipao!
Just over the crossbar there from Lipao. Corner.
Kelvin leading the way when it comes to our MVP vote via our Twitch users. A reminder, you only need to write the name of the player. It's that simple and you can vote. In comes the corner from Kelvin Oliveira. Colombia in transition, they've given it away. Here's Lipao using the overlapping run. Andres Vaz back on the pitch as well after his yellow card.
Yeah, but he's not strong enough there in the challenge. Andreas Vaz, Lobon with a final touch. It's headed away here. Colombia moving in the wrong direction.
And we're now into added time as well, of which there will be 3 minutes. Colombia trail by 2. They need to score to force this game to a shootout. Brazil using every inch of the pitch, long by Barata, but straight to Camilo Mena. And now Colombia need to try and plot a route forward. They need to be methodical, but they also have to do it quickly. They're running out of time. Alexander Rodriguez. And they go backwards again, rather frustratingly. Camilo Mena now urged forward. They want to try and make the most of the overload by having the goalkeeper take a chance going up pitch. One though by Wembley. His was the last touch. Colombia throw.
It's going to be a long throw, looking for the head of Lobon.
In it comes towards Denilson Lobon, not cleared by Wembley. Angelot Caro underneath it. Had to be swept away this time by Lipao. Rodriguez now, cleverly done. Alejandro Ortega is giving it away. There's an empty net, provided he can finish. Surely it's going to be Kelvin once again.
Oh.
What a block that is.
It's exactly what Colombia wanted. They need to move quickly in the opposite direction. It's too slow from Colombia.
Luis Moreno saving the game, keeping it alive. Was that a foul by Denilson Lobon? I think the whistle's gone there. It is just a Colombia throw. They're still alive here. Colombia with all outfield players, there's no one in goal. Lipao, Kelvin Oliveira, that will do it! And of course it was him who put the game to bed. Gaules celebrates, so too do the Brazilians. And Kelvin has scored an incredible 5 goals tonight. It's now Brazil 6, Colombia 2.
The Brazilian presidents look like they're all crying together, huddled together. The last time Brazil won the Football World Cup was in 2002, and they are now cruising towards a win in the inaugural Kings League World Cup Nations.
It's done, says Kelvin with his celebration there. Tá fechado, it's closed, it's done. It's been put to bed by Kelvin Oliveira, the leading scorer in this competition. And now, believe it or not, he is 1 shy of 20 in this, just his 5th match. Scored in every single game from round 1 right through to the final here. And Brazil in the end just have had too much for Colombia, who certainly made the right move there. Going without a keeper, they had to take Camilo Mena off to try and get the overload. But in the end, Brazil, and one player in particular, has just shone brighter than anyone else. Brian Gutierrez, Rodriguez. They have to score twice in quick succession, Colombia. Angelot Caro wriggling away. There was a foul there. They're going to have the chance here, but we've played 3 added minutes. They're going to have to score and then hope the officials give them enough time. to restart and then score again, but first and foremost, this has to go in.
It has to go in, but I think there will be at least 40 seconds because the Brazilians took their time with their celebration. So let's see, Angelo Caro has already scored what is perhaps the goal of the tournament. It has to be said. Can he come up with a second?
It's Alejandro Ortega stood over this, I think, along with Alexander Rodriguez. It is indeed. My money's on Ortega, who's already scored a stunning goal in this competition. We'd know if he scored because he'd go with the acrobatics. Ortega takes it short, couldn't find Brian Gutierrez, offside as well. There goes the full-time whistle, it's done! A Nação do Futebol! Brazil win! And Kelvin Oliveira stars in a 6-2 final victory over Colombia. The best team throughout this month of January at the Kings World Cup Nations. They make history by becoming the first ever country to win this new competition. Simon Harding, a word for os campeões, Brazil.
Simply too good, too creative, too clinical in the big... goals in the final. Kelvin Oliveira will be the man remembered here in Italy in 2025 for the Kings World Cup Nations.
The most valuable player for 5 matches in a row. Every game he has played in this competition, Kelvin has outscored everyone else. He's been voted the best player in all of those matches. He's going to get player of the tournament. He's surely a shoo-in for the Corona de Oro, the best player in the Kings League, and he's overcome by the emotion. So many of those Brazilian players are. They are players with faith. They believe throughout. Gaules said it, Chris Getz has said it as well. Ustejario, they've all played their part with presidential penalties, and Gaules there acclaims his friend. A wonderful moment of amizade, friendship.
And I tell you what, Gaules had unerring, unwavering belief. We saw it, we heard it in his pre-match speeches, in the quarters and in the finals, and we actually spoke to him, Patrick, and he said, I had no doubt that we can win this. Brazil have done it, Brazil have delivered, and that's always the most difficult thing to do when you're the favourites, to go on and to deliver. Colombia pushed them close for a half, but then in the second, Brazil simply too good.
Eu falei que a gente ia voltar e a gente ia dar tudo. A gente já tinha dado tudo dentro de campo e não tinha sido suficiente. E eu falei, a gente vai voltar o quanto antes e a gente vai levar o que é nosso. E hoje é nosso, é seu, brasileiro, é seu essa porra!
There it is. We apologise for the bad language there from Gaules, but he said, I told you it would be ours, we would bring it home, and today it is yours, Brazil.